Welcome to r/entitled people, where we share stories from your lives about people who think the rules don't apply to them and they should get what they want. Thank you, friends, for subscribing to the channel and for so many likes. And today we have 3 great stories, so subscribe, hit the like button, and let's begin. The first story: my sister's revenge while babysitting caused a lot of problems for this entitled father. The second story: another entitled customer with his impossible demands. The third story: it's so nice to see these smug a-holes screw themselves over. The first story is: entitled jerk refused to pay my sister for over a month of babysitting. I woke up this morning and remembered this story at a random while having coffee. This happened when my sister was a teenager. She took on a babysitting gig to make money after school and on weekends. At one point, she was contracted by a single dad to babysit his young son. This kid was hands down a brat. His mother had apparently walked out when he was a toddler, and his father didn't discipline him at all. The father was a very busy man, and often didn't get home until late. So my sister racked up a lot of hours watching his kid. I don't remember what her rates were back then, but I do remember them being very fair, if not cheaper than most. My sister would say that if you want to get a babysitting job, sometimes you have to lower your rates so you get hired over other teenagers that were trying to do the same. Understandable. But this nightmare kid my sister had to watch was just awful. He was pretty overweight for a 7-year-old because he refused to eat anything but junk food, and his father was always buying it for him. His diet primarily consisted of burgers, burritos, and pizza, along with lots of soda and sweets. My sister once tried to get him to eat steamed vegetables, and the brat called his daddy crying that he wanted junk food. The kid wouldn't do his homework either, just wanted to eat and play video games all day. And he had not only a foul mouth on him, but was often physical too. He attacked my sister and tried to pull her hair out, just because she beat him at a racing video game. My sister was at the end of her rope, and the brat's father hadn't paid her since she'd started a month prior. My sister had him sign a written document that stated how many hours she worked, every single day she babysat, but he still wasn't paying her. He kept making excuses, saying he just needed time. He'd be good for it soon, etc. But eventually my sister told him that either he paid or she'd quit. Well, they got in an argument, and he didn't want to pay at all. My sister said like father like son, because she could see where his kid got his entitlement from. My sister came home in tears, and my parents went over to the entitled father's house to demand he pay. He laughed in their faces, but he apparently couldn't find another babysitter because he was calling and begging a few days later. But he still wouldn't pay her. My dad then told the guy that there was no way in hell they were letting my sister go back to his house, and were gearing up to take him to small claims court for not paying my sister, unless he paid her what he owed. We had his signatures on all the hours he'd signed off on, and he'd lose out on even more if we went to court. He showed up about an hour later, begrudgingly handed my parents a check, and called us thieves for forcing a hardworking single dad to pay. My dad told him off for hiring a babysitter with no intention to pay, and called him a scumbag. Now, this doesn't quite end there. My sister 2 weeks later anonymously reported the entitled dad to CPS. They investigated, and the man nearly lost his son. The kid was extremely unhealthy from all the junk food. He was going to have a repeat a year in school, and he needed counseling for his anger. Also, my sister was the only one doing any sort of cleaning over there. So in the 2 weeks since my sister wasn't working there, the place was trashed. CPS took the kid away till the father could get everything sorted. My sister found out all this from various people, and she kept tabs on them for a while, purely out of spite. But the brat ended up losing a lot of weight, and neighbors heard him screaming many times that he wanted junk food when his father wouldn't give it to him. The father was even taking his son on morning runs. I'm guessing doctors told him his kid was at risk of diabetes or something. The guy eventually moved, and my sister heard nothing more ever again, but I'll bet that kid is entitled now. Note: I and my parents did feel my sister calling CPS was a bit of an overreach, and my sister has admitted many times she's vindictive, and she practically stalked those people for more information after the fact. I suppose I'm vindictive too on some level, considering a big prank I helped out with not too long ago. But by the time we found out what my sister had been done, there was nothing we could really do about it. All of her friends backed her up as well, so she was basically scolded a bit, and then it was all swept under the rug. Note too: do I think CPS overreached a bit? Too? Yes, I do. But from what I know, they generally have to follow up on any report given. Also, this kid was straight up physically violent to people, and the father was verbally not far off, which probably didn't help his case. I don't know if the kid was sent to live with a relative till the father sorted things out. I only heard all this stuff from my sister. That said, CPS is not a perfect organization. It all depends on who you're dealing with. You could have CPS agents that are way too overzealous, and love the power they feel they have to give and take. But then you have the CPS agents that barely do their jobs at all, or are so overworked that they just couldn't be bothered with anything more. Update: Well, my sister knew about this Reddit account and didn't tell me until now. She just called me a little bit ago to give me an A-chewing and to clarify some things I'd gotten wrong since this situation happened 10 years ago. She first told me I shouldn't have posted this without asking her, as it was her story to tell, not mine. I apologized for that. Then she told me the kid wasn't taken from his father exactly. He was sent to live with his grandparents nearby until the house had been cleaned up and he could secure a new babysitter. CPS was involved, but they basically told the father to get his and his son's act together and that he needed to be a better father. And once CPS has their eyes on you, they don't look away for a while. So my sister guessed the dad was just trying to look good as a parent. I asked how she knew so much, and she'd stalked the father's social media for some time, till the guy deleted his profile. He ranted very negatively about his son staying with the parents of his ex-wife, and he was peeved about having to hire a cleaning crew for the house, since it was bordering on hoarder levels of filth. I said my sister was the only one there doing any cleaning, but she was only able to do so much. The house was infested too, which means exterminators also had to be called in. The father ranted how much money it was costing him. He got an earful from people telling him he was a horrible parent, and soon deleted his account. My sister also got info from the babysitter who replaced her in the father's employ. And no, he didn't try to go without paying the babysitter like he did my sister. Guess he learned his lesson on that. So I guess CPS didn't outright take the kid. They just sent him to his grandma and grandpa, who were like an hour away. What an a-hole that father is. I think it's good that your sister called CPS, because something tells me that there was probably more to what the entitled father was driving at than just the fact that the kid only ate junk food and had a filthy house. Something in my gut tells me that he was definitely too cheap to pay your sister, but something else tells me that there was probably something more going on. So who knows? Maybe her vindictiveness could have saved that child's life. I still think this kid benefited from his time with his grandparents. It's heartwarming to see that when the Scrooge daddy finally realized the gravity of the situation, he rushed to deliver that paycheck. Fear of a lawsuit can be quite the motivator, can't it? It seems like he finally learned his lesson, albeit the hard way. It's a shame he missed his fatherhood classes on a regular basis. It seems he needed a few extra lessons in the Parenting 101 department. The second story is entitled Customers. I work for a major bank in their debit card claims department. For those who don't know my job description, whenever you have an issue with a merchant dispute, the status of said dispute or a problem dealing with fraud charges, you would generally be speaking to me or anyone in my department. Now, it's not a typical day unless we've been yelled at and called every name in the book. Two particular types of Karens come to mind. Those who were supposedly shareholders in the company, and then those who have been with us for God knows how long. Here's how these conversations unfold. Me: hi, thank you for being a valued client with us. May I please have your first and last name? Karen tells entire life story, and the reason for her call, all in the span of 6 to 7 minutes. Me: alright, I can definitely look into that claim for you. May I please have your first and last name? The Karen apologizes and states their name. I then open up the claim to see what the details are. On a side note, being in the department, we get a lot of denied claims, but I'll get to that in a moment. I read through all the notes from our research team and advise the woman of her denied claim status. Her entire demeanor changes at that point in time. Karen: you are my bank. I expect you to handle this for me and believe everything that I say. I'm a shareholder with insert bank name here, and I've been with you guys for over 30 years. I expect better treatment than this. Me: I do understand the frustration with this situation, ma'am, but because the merchant supplied documents showing that the charge was valid, we had to deny your claim. Karen: this is not fair. You guys should be on my side and just believe me. Is this really how you treat longtime customers? Me: again, I do understand the frustrations with this situation, but as a bank, we have to keep things fair for all clients, and we can't offer any special treatment to anyone, as that would be against the laws that govern us as a bank. Karen: I don't want any special treatment. I just want you to give me my money, and then you guys can just get it back from the merchant. Me: I'm sorry, ma'am. There's nothing further that we can do, and we're no longer able to reach out to the merchant. By this time, she's ranting and yelling and requesting to speak to my supervisor. I advise her that I can definitely get one for her. However, only our research team makes the decisions, and as frontline agents and managers, we have no power over this claim, and the only way to speak to the research team is through the claim. However, we can no longer assist, and thus we would be unable to help you at all. One of three things usually happens here. 1, they threaten to close their account to try to get their way, but I advise them that I can help them close it, which usually makes them even more mad. 2, they disconnect from the line. 3, I advise them that I'm getting a supervisor, in which they are then told the exact same information, as if it was going to change. Oh, the trials and tribulations of dealing with the entitlement brigade in the world of customer service. Bravo, OP, for maintaining your professionalism and patience during these mind-boggling interactions. Your ability to keep your cool is admirable, and it is obvious that you have mastered the art of handling these situations. The Karen Chronicles, as I call them, often follow a predictable script, from the initial grand entrance with a life story to the dramatic twist where they expect you to believe them unconditionally. Your reiteration of company policy and fair banking principles demonstrates your commitment to compliance. I certainly couldn't behave the way you do. I would just send every entitled customer far away for a very long time. The third story is, you have candidates lined up to replace me? Go ahead. This is not my story, but my friend's. Anyway, he works for the government and is a contractor. The reason being is the salary is not at market rate, so this government facility go through staffing companies. Probably the government figures it's more expensive to hire full-time due benefits and can save money via staffing company. Anyway, I'm not going to specifics just to be safe. The job is not desirable but very needed. It's not the job itself, but what the job is for. So it's not for everybody and there are virtually no applicants willing to do the job. Only a select few are willing. His team is the only willing personnel, and has been for a number of years now. Anyway, the government places our bids once every number of years. The old system was every department needing workers have their own staffing company, but this time the government changed it to only one company for everybody, instead of per department. His contract is up for renewal, however. The previous company he works for at the time didn't even get the bid request, so he has to talk to this staffing company. Now, this new company's owner is a piece of work. My friend thinks this company has a contact or insider helping him, so he became the top less bidder. 3 months before my friend's contract is up, he tried to contact the company who won the bid to see if they can hire him there, but no answer. The owner was probably in Mexico or Belize celebrating multi-million contract. A few weeks has passed. The company returned his call. Company lowballed him and his team, even mocked them saying, "I have candidates lined up from LinkedIn ready to take your positions." When he tried to negotiate pay and benefits, I think the company did that because they thought there will be no other way working there except through them. So since being there for a number of years and knowing nobody will sign up with the company but them, they didn't apply and call his bluff. Now the job is very needed or else the facility won't fulfill certain certifications to keep them running. Few more weeks has passed. The head honcho of the whole facility didn't like that there was contract renewal for the previous team, or new staff lined up for the job. The head honcho and directors met up and agreed to send out an emergency bid for that department only. Now their department makes up 75% of the whole contracts there. So the piece of work guy caught wind and was frantically calling my friend and his team. Owner of the company said some made-up crap that he was able to renegotiate and bump my friend's position to 50% more pay. My friend said, "I'm sure our replacements from LinkedIn will be very happy," and hung up. That company couldn't fill those positions and lost the lucrative contract. The emergency contract was awarded to his previous employer. It's a classic story of corporate arrogance and workplace resilience. When a new staffing company tried to undercut and bully your friend's team, karma struck back hard. Their refusal to bend forced an emergency tender offer, leading to a sweet victory for the underappreciated team. The moral of the story is, never underestimate the power of irreplaceable employees. Hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.